welcome back to the God Pill. Before today's video, I was going to comment that I've been observing more synchronicities the past few weeks, and while I don't file away many of them, I was going to note that one of my more recent viewers mentioned in a comment that he also views Arcturus's content. I bring this up because given his interest in female nature and progressivism before learning that, I was going to recommend his videos on the topics of resonant echo chambers and human evolvability in search heat. Instead, I'll suggest he check out RJ's channel, The Fourth Age, if he hasn't already. RJ examines the progressive's corruption of pop culture while simultaneously providing his audience a solid introduction and grounding in Aristotelian philosophy. Today's video is one of two I intend to make in near-term reading post on a Black Pill forum, in this case, one on the waning days of the Roman Empire. Historical Hybristophilia, the sister of a Roman emperor who wanted tribal warlord Attila to conquer Rome and murder millions so she could marry him. Just Grata Honoria, often referred to simply as Honoria, on the right in the pic above, was the sister of the Western Roman Emperor Valentinian III. She went down in history as the ultimate traitor who wanted her brother dead and her empire conquered because she had the hots for the mass murderer and conqueror Attila the Hun. She's a great example of hybristophilia, which is the fascination and love that women have for murderers, psychopaths, rapists, pedophiles, tyrants, etc. To quote Wikipedia, hybristophilia is a paraphilia in which sexual arousal, facilitation, and attainment of orgasm are responsive to and contingent upon being with a partner known to have committed an outrage, cheating, lying, known infidelities, or crimes such as rape or murder. Many high-profile criminals, particularly those who have committed atrocious crimes, receive fan mail in prison that is sometimes amorous or sexual, presumably as a result of this phenomenon. In some cases, admirers of these criminals have gone on to marry the object of their affection in prison. As a sister of an emperor, Honoria was one of the most high-profile persons in one of the most powerful empires on earth at that time. But being a woman, that obviously wasn't enough. Poor thing, she deserved better. She thought that Romans were weak and pathetic, and that included her brother. And she was a huge slut too, unsurprisingly. Honoria gained a reputation with older historians of being ambitious and promiscuous, using her sexuality to advance her interests. She regarded her brother as weak and indolent, based on the events of a brief period in her life, according to John of Antioch, writing in the 7th century. She seduced her chamberlain, Eugenius, but their affair was discovered. Her brother married her to a Roman senator who wouldn't try to backstab him and take the throne. She hated her beta-buxing, money-maxing, status-maxing husband, of course. Remember, folks, none of this creates attraction. What she really desired was a violent, psychopathic mass murderer who raped, pillaged, and enslaved countless cities. Her brother decided to marry Honoria to a Roman senator named Bassus Herculanus, who was considered safe and unlikely to use his connections to seize the throne. Faced with the unwanted marriage, Honoria sought the aid of Attila the Hun. She sent the Hunnish king a plea for help and her ring in the spring of 450 AD, and Attila accepted this. He set out to conquer Western Rome. That stupid bitch started a war between two giant empires, putting millions of lives at risk in the process, all because her pussy got wet for a psychopath. And guess what? Of course she got away with it. When Valentinian discovered the plan, again, only the influence of his mother, Galla Placidia, convinced him to exile rather than kill Honoria. He also wrote to Attila strenuously denying the legitimacy of the supposed marriage proposal. Yet Attila still chose to invade, which led to the suffering of hundreds of thousands, if not more than 1 million people. Attila returned in 452 AD to renew his marriage claim with Honoria, invading and ravaging Italy along the way. Communities became established in what would later become Venice as a result of these attacks, when the residents fled to small islands in the Venetian lagoon. His army sacked numerous cities and razed Aquila so completely that it was afterwards hard to recognize its original state. Italy had suffered from a terrible famine in 451 AD, and her crops were faring little better in 452. Attila's devastating invasion of the plains of northern Italy this year did not improve the harvest. The Romans were only saved in the end because disease struck Attila's army, and the horrible harvest in Italy created famine, which limited his advancement in the land. Attila finally halted at the river Po. By this point, disease and starvation may have taken hold in Attila's camp, thus hindering his war efforts and potentially contributing to the cessation of invasion. To advance on Rome would have required supplies which were not available in Italy. and taking the city would not have improved Attila's supply situation. Therefore, it was more profitable for Attila to conclude peace and retreat to his homeland. So Rome survived by sheer luck, but countless people still had to suffer in the process, and the country was ravaged, leaving a mark for decades, all because the most powerful and richest woman of Western Rome was bored, horny, and thought she could do better. Teehee. And that's Jim Seld's post. While the scale of events can make for a shocking reader listen, I'm sure for those that have been in the manosphere for a few months, it is unsurprising. There is no shortage of content on hybristophilia. If you want my take on the phenomena, I'll say what I've told people for years. What women want biologically is to have Genghis Khan as a son. 1 out of 200 men alive today is a descendant of him, because he had the power and ruthlessness necessary to go full pre-flood materialized demons on earth terror-like, on wherever and whomever he wished. Because of the severe limitations of the quantity of offspring a woman can gestate compared to those a man can spark the conception of, the optimal strategy for a woman to spread her genes is to be impregnated by the highest tier warlord, or otherwise most warlord-like male in her environment. This predisposition is amplified when the environment epigenetically favors our selection. Very few women can raise an Attila the Hun as a single mother, and most mothers do raise their sons to be beta utilities for the sisterhood. But that is the hope of their hindbrain, that there are enough warlord genes from the thugs she picked to produce a good vehicle for her own genes. Any resulting son, if the child is male, possessing the physical and mental traits necessary to replicate her own genes as much and as widely as possible, through sufficient aggression, power acquisition, low impulse control, and ruthlessness. Is it any wonder why they erode civilizations and make them vulnerable? Stability means less men killing each other, and we can't have men not being gladiators to showcase reproductive fitness, can we? Matriarchy is not opposed to hard patriarchy. It actually wants aspects of it in a have-cake-and-eat-it-too fashion. The erosion of patriarchy in favor of feminist matriarchy is a revolt against civilized, monogamous, soft patriarchy out of a female dissatisfaction with the absence of violence, chaos, tournament mating, and polygamy, transitioning society into a gynocratic tyranny provides 3 avenues of potential benefits. A tyrannical gynocracy allows women the power, freedom, and safety to be as bluntly eugenic in their practices as they would please. If the men aren't going to be warlords, the women can divide mankind between worker drones, gladiators, and white knight enforcers. If everything up to the full tyrannical consolidation of power was unopposed by men, then the full force of matriarchy could provoke a slave revolt. There is a desperate desire on some level for pushback from us, but it may not come till enough men have to choose between either a struggle or their wives turning their sons into trannies. It's provocation, and men are failing the shit test. So far. Finally, matriarchy renders a civilization vulnerable to conquest by all external societies more patriarchal than it. This is a feature, not a bug. If the city is surrounded by the barbarians, the men will be forced to take action or die. And when the sun sets, the woman's men will either regain their much-desired spines, or the woman will be carried off over their carcasses by the conquerors. In short, there are very precious few scenarios where women do not ultimately win. If you've enjoyed this content, don't hesitate to like, share, subscribe, donate, and comment. Until next time, when in Rome, do as the God Pillars do.